The ultimate freeze meets the ultimate quake, trapped between collapse and hypothermia. The fault zone is real, and it's waking up. Welcome to the Last Day Theory. Like the video and subscribe. It's 4:47 a.m. Ottawa is drowning in darkness. The city sleeps beneath a blanket of Arctic air so cold, it feels alien, unnatural, minus 51 degrees Celsius. The kind of cold that makes metal crack, that turns breath into ice crystals before it leaves your mouth, that kills exposed skin in under 2 minutes. The streets are empty, abandoned. No cars, no footsteps, no sound. Just the occasional groan of frozen metal contracting in the darkness. Inside their homes, people huddle beneath every blanket they own. The heating systems strain against the cold, working overtime just to keep indoor temperatures above freezing. Parliament Hill sits like a frozen monument. The Peace Tower's light cuts through the blackness, a lonely beacon in a city that feels like the edge of the world. In the Byward Market, icicles hang from shuttered storefronts like frozen teeth. The Rideau Canal, usually a source of pride, has become a wasteland of ice, thick enough to support a truck. This is the 7th day of the cold snap. 7 days since Ottawa became the coldest capital city on Earth. People are exhausted, scared, running out of heating fuel, but they tell themselves, we're Canadian, we've survived worse. They haven't. Because at 4:48 a.m., something wakes up beneath the city, something that's been sleeping for thousands of years. Deep underground, along an ancient fault line most people don't even know exists, pressure has been building. The Western Quebec Seismic Zone, a network of fractures running beneath the Ottawa River Valley. Scientists know it's there. They've documented hundreds of small earthquakes over the years, but an 8.0? That wasn't supposed to happen here. That was supposed to happen somewhere else. California, Japan, Chile. Not here, not now, not during the coldest night in a century. 4:48 a.m. and 17 seconds. The first sound is like distant thunder, but thunder doesn't happen in winter, and it doesn't come from below. A woman named Sarah lies awake in her apartment on Bank Street. She's been awake for hours listening to her 3-year-old daughter cough in the next room. The heating barely works. She's wearing 2 sweaters under the blankets. She hears it first, the rumble, deep, primal, wrong. Then the shaking begins. At first it's gentle, almost like a heavy truck passing outside. But trucks don't run at minus 51 degrees. Then the world explodes. The ground doesn't just shake, it tears. Sarah's apartment building begins to scream. The walls crack with sounds like gunshots. Windows shatter into crystalline shards that glitter in the darkness. Her daughter screams. Sarah tries to run, but she can't stand. The floor is bucking like a wild animal trying to throw her off. Across the city, the same nightmare unfolds in 1,000 variations. In the Glebe, a century-old brick house collapses in on itself. The family inside has exactly 4 seconds to understand what's happening before the roof comes down. On Sussex Drive, entire sections of roadway crack apart, creating chasms that steam in the Arctic air. The Alexandra Bridge begins to dance. Steel cables snap with sounds like rifle fire. Concrete barriers tumble into the frozen river below. Parliament Hill, the Peace Tower sways like a reed in a hurricane. Alarms scream as masonry rains down inside the center block. The shaking goes on and on and on. 47 seconds. In earthquake terms, that's an eternity. Every second, the ground releases energy equivalent to multiple nuclear weapons. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stops. The silence that follows is worse than the shaking. Sarah lies on the floor of what used to be her apartment. In the darkness, she can hear her daughter crying. Still alive. Thank God, still alive. She tries to stand, her legs work. Nothing broken, but when she looks around, she realizes she's not in her apartment anymore. The far wall is gone. Just gone. And through the gap, She can see outside. The cold hits her like a physical blow. In the 10 seconds it takes her to understand what she's seeing, her exposed face begins to freeze. Her tears turn to ice on her cheeks. She stumbles to her daughter's room, grabs the child, wraps her in every blanket she can find. But the heat is already bleeding out of the building. Within minutes, the indoor temperature will match the outside, minus 51 degrees Celsius. Across Ottawa, 200,000 people wake up to the same impossible choice. The buildings are damaged, unstable. Many are actively collapsing, but outside is death, instant, absolute death. At minus 51, human beings are just meat that freezes. Emergency services try to respond. Fire trucks roll out across the city, but diesel fuel gels, batteries die, hydraulic systems freeze solid. Of 37 fire trucks, only 8 make it more than 3 blocks. Police try to coordinate, but the cell towers are down. The power grid has failed across 90% of the city. Backup generators run for 17 minutes before the fuel lines freeze. Ottawa has become an island. In a collapsed apartment building in center town, an elderly man named Robert sits in his chair. He can't move. His hip broke when the building shook. He can hear people screaming, but he just watches his breath turn to frost in the beam of his flashlight. He remembers the ice storm of 1998. This is worse, so much worse, because this time, even the rescuers are dying. The hospitals are overwhelmed within the first hour. Cracks run through the walls. The patients can't be moved. Outside is certain death. Inside is possible death. Dr. Melissa Chen stands in the emergency department. Which patients get the blankets? Which ones get moved to the warmest rooms? Which ones are left behind? Nobody trained her for this. Let's understand what's happening here. Ottawa sits on the western Quebec seismic zone. In 1944, a magnitude 5.8 earthquake struck the area. But 5.8 isn't 8.0. An 8.0 releases approximately 1,000 times more energy. 1,000 times. Buildings shift by meters. Roads split open. All buried infrastructure ruptures at once. But what makes this truly catastrophic is the cold. At minus 51 degrees, steel becomes brittle, concrete contracts, rubber seals crack, water mains shatter, gas lines rupture, the power grid is destroyed, and without power there's no heat. The buildings become tombs of ice. At minus 51 degrees Celsius, a human being has about 10 minutes before losing consciousness, 20 minutes before death. Rescue will not come for days. Ottawa is cut off. Helicopters try to help. Only one makes it into the city. It rescues 47 people, then it crashes. There are no survivors. Sarah huddles with her daughter in the stairwell. Other survivors are there too. Someone has a small lantern. The building groans. A man opens the emergency exit.
Don't make a sound.
The cold rushes in.
I won't let them hurt
3
you.
people near the door begin to freeze.
almost there.
They're trapped. People start to cry. Sarah whispers to her daughter, "Help is coming! Help is coming! Help is coming!" She doesn't believe it. At the hospital, Dr. Chen has lost count of the dead. The temperature drops. Patients die, not from injuries, from the cold. By noon, at least 12,000 people are dead. Thousands more are dying. Rescue teams try to reach the city. They can't. Most survivors don't have days. By the 3rd day, the cold breaks. Minus 15 feels like summer. Rescuers enter the city. They find frozen apartment buildings. Families huddled together. 37,412 people are dead. The worst natural disaster in Canadian history. And this is not science fiction. The fault zone is real. The cold snaps are real. The probability is low, but it's not zero. You're watching this in a warm room. But somewhere, tectonic plates are moving. Pressure is building, and all it takes is the wrong moment. Sarah never existed, but she could. Tomorrow, next week, next winter, because the Earth doesn't care. It just moves, and when it does, we remember the truth. We're not in control. We never were. What if this happened tomorrow?
Would you be
ready? Would anyone? Welcome to the Last Day Theory. Like the video and subscribe.